Welcome to the Dragon's Library, your source for games, movies, shows, and more. Hello everybody, welcome back to the Dragon's Library. Now, you all know me, I enjoy a wide variety of things. But I think one of the weirdest things I've ever enjoyed is Hilda. And I say that with the best of intentions. Hilda is just one of those... God. Okay, so first of all, for those of you who don't know what Hilda is a animated series on Netflix, currently has 2 seasons, and they were about to get a 80-minute movie on December 30th. So I decided, hey, if we're about to see Hilda again, that means Hilda is a searchable term right now, which means I could release a podcast episode and maybe get decent traffic. So you know what? I'm going to talk about Hilda, because I freaking love this show. And it's weird. Hilda seems like the kind of show I might not usually be into. It's a very subtle, quiet, just relaxed fantasy show. It's not like, Beta the World stuff. It's not even like Reincarnated as a Slime where it's like, slow building stuff into major action. It's just kind of this nice, wholesome cup of coffee you can watch cuddled up on your couch. It's so freaking wholesome. Like, I cannot stress that enough. This is the kind of show where you just bundle up with your whole family and just watch it and feel better as a result. And even I, as misanthropic as I can be sometimes, as utterly pessimistic, could not just help but smile at this. It's just a nice show. I really don't know what else to say. It's fantastic animation. The voice cast is all great. It's based on a pretty interesting comic series I might read sometime. And the entire show just has so much more going on under the surface. And every time it pulls out this twist of brief interconnected spurts, and just the world it's in is just this fantastical, fantasy in the traditional sense of anything you can imagine sort of thing. And it always twists you up. I really do like it. I rewatched the entire thing recently, so I decided, you know what, I'm going to talk about it. That and the Wheel of Time still isn't finished yet, so I still need to, wait for that to finish up on Amazon so I can review it. So yeah. For those of you who want to know a bit more about the plot, and again, at this point you should know my non-spoiler recommendation is just watch it. It's fantastic. It's 2 seasons on Netflix. Go check it out. But for those of you who want a bit more details, it's about Hilda. She's this 11-year-old girl, grew up with her mother in a cabin near the woods. It's outside of the walled city called Trollberg that they live nearby. It's a sort of 21st-ish century Scandinavian country with a lot of magical and supernatural stuff going on that everybody's just kind of aware of. The city of Trollberg is a thing because trolls are a real thing in this world. And, during the day they turn to stone, but during the night they wander around, so the walls were created to keep them out with bells to keep them away. And she has this, cute little deer fox named Twig, who's adorable. She runs into other friends like Alfer, and they go on adventures, but eventually her mom decides to move her to the city, so there's all this, I've lived out in the woods my whole life, I don't know how to deal with things here. She gets some friends, goes on tons of adventures with different, mysterious creatures and people and spirits and all sorts of supernatural stuff, including a completely hidden order of witches in the library, which everyone called a season ago. And it's just fantastic. There's all these cute and adorable adventures, but there are also some, startlingly dark ones, the time worm thing comes to mind a few instances. It's just, a little depressing, but it's, that kind of, but everything will work out in the end. Hilda is just this super nice, warm show. The color palette is just fantastic, and all the animation is just beautiful. It has this really simplistic art style that, just lends itself so well to fluid animation. It's fantastic. I love it. The entire thing. And all the characters, I don't think there's a character that really fully got on my nerves, which is weird, because I usually have at least one character I kind of, hate. Every show there's that one character I'm alright, can you get off the screen so all the characters I like can talk? No matter what I do, there's always that one, but Hilda is just, no, I just liked everybody. They're all interesting characters. Go figure. I won't really spoil it anymore because there is actually some overarching plot. It starts as an episodic series, but the overarching themes, just connecting threads between each story, start linking together. One thing I really like is that even though it's an episodic story, Like, as in, like, each one is focused around, kind of a self-contained adventure. Each adventure is kind of the fallout of earlier adventures. So, like, it's not like one of those episodic shows where unless it's a direct sequel, nothing happened. Like, if, let's say Hilda went on an adventure where she was staking out a house every night for a few nights. I think there was something where she was constantly going out for this teenage ghost thing. It's not important. And her mom would be like, hey, you've been out recently, and you've been doing stuff. And in the next episode, her mom would be like, hey, you've been out all the time. I never see you anymore. What are you doing? It's like, oh, we had to deal with the ghosts and stuff, and I don't care. You're going to stay home. We're going to have a nice dinner. And it's like, so these episodes take place in order, and the characters are affected long-term by the actions in them. Like, there'll be feuds that'll go on for a few episodes, and they'll resolve them maybe like 1, 2 or 3 episodes later. But the fallout of those feuds will still exist. So it's sort of a serialized show, but each episode can, to a certain extent, be watched just on its own merits. You just get a bigger picture of the overarching story when you watch them all together. And Hilda really pulls off that marriage of episodic and serialized storytelling that not a lot of other shows can do. Usually it's, you need all the context or you need none of the context. There's not like a whole lot of crossovers. Don't get me wrong, there are arcs that you might have, but it's more like, hey, if you watch this episode, and this episode, you'll get a story. This one's like, no, you can kind of get a story all the way through, but you don't need to. Each one kind of works as its own episodic thing. The creatures are very interesting. You get everything from, like, nature spirits to a lindworm, a type of dragon, to, like, obviously the trolls, you get the deer foxes. It's this really interesting, fascinating, almost alien world. It seems both familiar and almost terrifyingly different at the same time. And I just love it. Absolutely. It's not really scary. Not at all, actually. But it's not safe either, if that makes sense. And I always really like that. And of course, Hilda is always trying to, like, make, work everything out, obviously. She's, this sweet little girl. She's like, yeah, I've been doing this for a while. And her friend, and her, human friends she gets later on are all, like, freaked out when they first start. But then they're eventually, like, even the scared ones are like, yeah, we've been through, look, Hilda, I've been through a lot at this point. I've met a freaking dragon. I know, this isn't surprising that you've run into another supernatural creature that needs your help. And it's all very cute and sweet. So, if you want my recommendation, go watch it. It's a fantastic time. It's a great comfort show if you just want, like, something to make you feel better. Or if you just want something to watch with family and friends, because it's one of those things where you can actually watch it with your kids, and you won't feel bored, and they won't feel, like they don't understand, or you won't feel, like, guilty for showing it to them. So if you're parents, this is a good one for a whole family to watch as well. Which is not something I say about a lot of things I review. Anyway. That's maybe it. I highly recommend you go see it. Yeah. So, on to the spoiler section. Spoiler section. What was that voice? Okay. So the Hilda as a story is basically just Hilda trying to learn how to navigate her life. Her life is upturned in the first 2 sections. So you have Hilda, who the first 2 stories really are pretty cool because they kind of mirror each other in a way, at least in the aftermath. So what happens is Hilda and her mom are living in their cabin, but they've recently been attacked by a bunch of small invisible creatures that are later revealed to be elves. They're like little mini elves. Like one of them's like a little bit bigger than your thumb. And turns out they're invisible to anyone who hasn't signed the proper paperwork, because these elves are all like super serious about paperwork, which I love it. It's just it's so adorable watching their entire civilization be around like deals and contracts. And it turns out Hilda, due to not being able to see them, has constantly been walking all throughout their villages in the forest, in the area just outside the forest, and crushing them. So the king has decided to, declare war on her in a sense. And she goes to talk to the king about how, she'll try and be a better person, that kind of stuff. And she's like, I didn't know, I couldn't see you. And the king, agrees to let her stay. Eventually, anyway. However, afterwards, they meet a giant in the next episode. And the giant is waiting for his love to come back because he came back to find his love. They were supposed to be watching because all the other giants jumped into space. Yes, I said that right, jumped into space. And he was looking for his wife, who was supposed to be waiting for him. But it's been a few centuries, time moves differently for immortals that are really, really slow to move, and he can't seem to find her. Well, it turns out she's the mountain. Very interesting, very interesting. And, even though Hilda has been accepted by the elves, when the giants go to leave, they end up crushing Hilda's house, and they jump off into space, and her mom's like, they don't even notice we're here. And then you see Hilda's foot stepping through one of the elf houses that she accidentally stepped on again. It's like, oh, we need to leave too, don't we? We're accidentally crushing, because the whole point was the giants the world got smaller, everything got, smaller, and they ended up, causing too much havoc by being so large, so they left this place. And the whole thing is Hilda, it's like, yeah, Hilda, you made peace with the elves, you tried, but it's not good for either of you to stay here, you're gonna get in more conflict. It's for the best if you all just leave. And it's like, okay, that was actually very interesting, mirroring the two storylines. I actually really liked that. Then you have then you eventually get to the city. Hilda's trying to fit in. She makes some friends. Both the friends she makes are kind of fun. You have, the rough and tumble girl who's always eager. She's like the Girl Scout who's trying to plan everything out for them. She's organized. She's got the grades, that kind of stuff. Hilda's the nature one of them, always the tomboy. And then you got the scared, boyfriend. So, he's just, constantly I don't know, we should be doing this. But he always comes across as a lot more intelligent than they're usually given. He's scared a lot of things, but he's also, very intelligent, always trying to help out once he realizes there's no threat. They run into, this bird who ends up becoming a part of the town's rituals, specifically this big parade, because a long time ago he flew over as a giant bird, and the city had a really good year that year, so every year he's come back because he doesn't really mind coming by and stopping and, showing off so they can believe their good luck is coming past them, and it helps them out, so he's like, you know what, I'll come do this. But he gets knocked out of the sky, loses his memories, and Hilda just helps him out. It's all just this fun. It's Hilda runs into a problem, she, talks through it, eventually figures out what's going on, figures out the solution that was probably pretty obvious, but nobody figured out because they didn't, talk through and, actually listen to all the different sides of the argument, and tries to find a solution that everybody can be happy on. He ends up helping the crow remember he was the great raven who brought good fortune to the city that one time. And also I love how even though there's actual magic in this world, they also admit that a lot of myths are kind of based on circumstance and coincidence. There's a lot of that around, people taking something very simple or mild in this magical world as a lot more important than it was. Again, this guy was just a storm crow who had the ability to control rain and, just happened to have a giant and a small form. Well, he was flying over the village just in time for a year where, in the same year that they had one of their best harvests after years of hardship. And it's oh my god, the crow blessed us. And when he heard that, he's like, well, I guess I should keep stopping by. And eventually it just became a holiday. And I've always loved things like that. Even in a world of magic, myths are still born because myths are human concepts meant to make sense of a scary world. In a world with magic, it'll only be more likely that myths would form, You get things with baby trolls in the city, because the city kills any trolls inside. You get just all sorts of stuff. Hilda tries her hand at witchcraft and nearly brings about the apocalypse. With mice that steal your soul. There's a ghost that devours nightmares. Just all sorts of really interesting and fun stuff. The creature design is just top notch. I love it. You get living water spirits. You get the great storm crow. A lot of it seems to be based on Scandinavian mythology, from what I understand. That's the whole, one of the major creatures is trolls. They're one of the more common ones you run into. They appear in the opening, that kind of thing. Also, the opening is fantastic. I forgot to mention that in the regular part of the review. I have listened to that OP just over and over again. Just had the opening, theme, the whole music video of it just playing in the background over and over again. Because it's just so relaxing. In the second season, Hilda gets a bit more involved in the town. She has to deal with this, like, annoying, guy who's, like, the captain of the troll guard and is always taking credit for things Hilda actually solved and saying, yes, I scared off the monster. Now we're all safe. And Hilda's, like, standing 5 feet away being like, actually, you cowered in a corner while I talked to the monster, found out while it's here, and showed it didn't need to attack us. You were cowering in a corner after you tried to attack it, and it, like, smacked you away. Okay, you know what? I just realized there was one character I found very annoying, but he got his comeuppance, so I'm okay with it. He's supposed to be annoying. He has this assistant who at first is a bit hero-struck, and over time she just gets so sick of his shit, especially when he's, like, turned into, like shrunk down. Oh, it's wonderful. Also, Frida, who's Hilda's friend, she actually becomes a witch. So early on, Hilda, like, dabbled in witchcraft, and it was hinted that the librarian was a witch. Which is revealed she's a witch. She's, the library has access to, like, a spatial reality where all the witches come to meet and do their stuff. And when she's trying to help her with, her witch problem, it turns out she has an overdue book and they have to find it and bring it back, do these trials before time runs out and all this stuff. But Hilda's like, I can do this, I can beat these witch trials, and then Frida's just like, oh, wait, these are, like, very interesting and fascinating, because, she's the nerd, and she gets this. I love how Hilda's response to one of the puzzles was to grab the sword, because as much as she loves the diplomatic solution, she's also, like, the action girl, she's not the wizard. That's Frida. And everyone was always theorizing that Hilda's going to become a witch and she must have some late magical power. It's like, no, Frida's got the talent for magic. Hilda nearly destroyed us all last time she used magic. Hilda is not allowed to ever use magic ever again. Those mice she made to give someone good luck nearly devoured the souls of the whole town. I'm sorry. No. Hilda, you're not allowed to use magic. That's just the law now. Sorry. God, I forgot about the mice who were supposed to give her friend David good luck, and it ended up trying to eat his soul. And then they ended up finding their way to this other guy who works for, like, this chip company, and they gave him lots of good luck, but they started devouring the souls of everyone around them and multiplying, because, mice. It's wonderful. I just love it. Also, one of the episodes I wasn't a big fan of was the replacement, but I also kind of like it in its own absurd way. So Alfie was supposed to, he's the elf, he's the, elf who's tagging along with Hilda from their old home. He decided to come with them and report all his journeys and outside world stuff to the Elf Kingdom, and he'd been sending him all these reports back. And he gets a message saying he's being called in for questioning because they don't think anyone could possibly have such ridiculous stories. Yeah, Hilda's adventures are so absurd, even in her own world, that the Elf King was like, you must be making some of this up. You're gonna have to come over here and we're gonna have to send a replacement who is just, like, the worst. But at the end, after, like, spending some time with Hilda, he's like, I feel for you. It must be hard to try and convince the council that all this stuff is real. Just because of all the shenanigans she gets involved in. Which is just, I love it. I just love it. Like, it's like self-aware. It's like, Hilda, you're 11. You should not be getting into this much trouble. Oh, it's fantastic. I love it so much. And that's basically it. There's the cliffhanger at season 2 where, so Hilda and her mom got trapped in these troll caves, and trolls are really dangerous, but this mom troll and her kid troll, who Hilda had helped out a long time ago, decide to help Hilda. But the troll did something weird while they were there and grabbed a bit of Hilda's hair, and then it turns out she was performing some kind of magic ritual because she wants her kid to have a better life, so she decided to swap her kid with Hilda. I'm not sure if that's because she dislikes her kid as much, and wants Hilda to be her kid, or if she just wanted her kid to have a normal human life and not turn to stone during the day. Or be a threat from humans. So the end credits are Hilda waking up in a stone Hilda body, and the troll now having a human body in Hilda's bed. They kind of like Freaky Friday, but their bodies swap too. It's more like their species swapped, if that makes sense. And they swap places and species at the same time. So, it's an interesting cliffhanger, and her mom walks in and immediately understands what's going on. I was like, oh my god, what happened? No! So we're looking for that. Apparently I hope the movie's gonna try and do that, I think. But, I could use more of this. I want more of this. Like, there's only 2 seasons of Hilda, and I know it seems like a lot. Like, yeah, it's 26 episodes, and that's a decent amount, but I need more of this. Like, I really need more of this. It's my go-to, I'm really stressed out and just need to unwind series. Like, if I'm just feeling overwhelmed, this is the reason I sit down with and I'm like, okay, let's just relax. Let's go on some relaxing adventures. Except for the time worm. I hinted at the beginning, you thought I forgot like I forget about a lot of things. No, I'm finally going to talk about the time worm episode. Which I guarantee scared at least a few kids. So Hilda finds out that there are these magazines that can transport you back in time. And as a result, she finds out that one of the old recurring background characters and one of the old witch characters at the same time, so one of the old witches they learn about, and there was this old background character, this old man. And it turns out he had forced himself to go to this like club one night and dance with this really pretty woman, but he had never got her name and never got her phone number or anything, and he just never saw her again. And eventually one day he figured out there were these special magazines from that night that if he found all the ones he could of that special issue, and that special issue somehow had some time power that let him go back in time when he read them. And he's been slowly rationing them out as he uses them to go back and watch this one moment over and over again. But he's always like, nope, I shouldn't interfere. What's done is done. I can't. I'm too shy. But Hilda decides to alter time because Hilda is a goody two-shoes, and her major weakness is even when she shouldn't interfere, she can't help herself from interfering, which oftentimes causes a lot of problems. And she decides, you know what? No, go chase after her. Go do it. She interferes with the past. And of course, it doesn't actually cascade out into a horrible future. It's actually a pretty decent future. Huh. Isn't that cool? Yeah, I know. I was expecting something horrible too. It's like, oh no, wait, everybody's happy and, everything's kind of going well. But before Hilda can go, head back to the future, suddenly 2 other Hildas show up, one of them from her first time travel and a future version of her that warns her to run. Because although it hasn't cascaded out into a horrible future, turns out time has a correcting method. Gigantic evil time worms that come out and delete you from history by devouring you. And guess what? It eats Hilda. Not the Hilda we're following, but the future version of her. And it starts eating them. Like, all the different versions of Hilda and the old man that have been going back in time all these times, because the old man, every time he went back, there was another version of him there. You had to watch the whole thing from a different perspective. And it starts eating them all. And it's like, yeah, the future she made was nice, but it's trying to erase you from history. And they end up, separating in the end. Hilda dies. They literally just have this whole thing where Hilda watches her future self get eaten. And it's actually, weighs on her. The end of this episode, she's like, I just saw myself die. Multiple times over. Meanwhile, Alfred has lost track of all the timelines, and he cannot, let go of the fact, wait, what, how do I convert this into a linear narrative? I have reports to make! I can't do a linear narrative like this! What's the narrative? He's just so confused by time travel. But they managed to sort it out. They use the, time travel magazines again to prevent Hilda from interfering, and, the old witch and the old man decide to voluntarily erase his timeline so that Hilda won't die for trying to help them out. And they even do this heartwarming speech about, well, we got to enjoy this timeline, and it was nice at least. I enjoyed it. Thank you for trying, Hilda. But it seems it was just not meant to be. And it's just he just no longer remembers. The old man goes back, and they just don't remember anything. And turns out the witch remembers now, and she's thankful that Hilda gave her a glimpse of what could have been, but, don't mess with time, kids. Horrible consequences await. But it was nice to see that, for once, messing with time actually created a positive timeline. It didn't, cascade outward. It's more of the fact that time isn't supposed to be messed with, even when it turns out well, because a time worm's gonna eat your future self right in front of you. Like, seriously, that scene was, damn. It just started eating all the copies of the old guy like crazy. That was, wow. That definitely scarred at least one kid. Like Courage the Cowardly Dog style. Oh, yeah. But that episode is like a highlight. I really like it personally. That and Twig the Deer Fox, who is adorable. Just every scene with him in it. But that's been me gushing about Hilda. There's not really much else to say. The show's very interesting. There's a lot of Scandinavian mythology and a lot of interesting concepts, like a Viking clan constantly at war with another Viking clan because they can never die due to a curse. An evil meteorologist who wants to open gateways into other worlds and study living magical creatures like the living storm cloud and stuff like that, but has like sort of not great morals and stuff like that. And just there's tons of interesting side characters and episodes. If I talked about them all, I'd be here all day. So yeah, that's basically just been it. I will see you guys next time. This Friday, we're going to be reviewing the new Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man No Way Home. I cannot wait to go see it. It looks fun. Well, the Spider-Man movies have been consistently good, so especially since after that cliffhanger. I'm still not a big fan of that cliffhanger, because seriously, Mysterio, really? You guys are going to believe that a-hole? Ugh. Like, he has eyewitnesses. Come on. So yeah. Anyway, see you guys next time. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode, and thank you for listening to the Dragon's Library. Please, subscribe to this podcast to be notified of new episodes. The Dragon's Library releases new episodes Tuesday and Friday each week, and you can follow us on Twitter at dragon_library2. If you want to suggest an episode topic, my email is in the description below. And as always, thank you so much for all your support.